Good morning, everybody. Orange J here with another War of the Visions video, and Lasswell EX, as well as Lasswell's new Vision card, are coming to global this Wednesday. So let's take a look at Lasswell's EX shops, let's take a look at his Vision card, and let's take a look at the couple of different ways you can use Lasswell if you want to incorporate him into your team, or if you want to relive those like glory days of the Lasswell 1v3 PvP Clutch Guild Wars. If you were there, you know what I'm talking about. If you weren't there, maybe you'll get to experience it again in all of its glory. Let's get to all that right now. Okay, so Lasswell EX. I think the place I want to start when I'm talking about Lasswell EX in this video is the Purple Lightning. We are having the raid reruns this week, so all of our previous raid gear is farmable, and if Lasswell is a unit you want to use, I highly suggest going and farming the recipes for a Purple Lightning +5. You see the stats on the screen right here. This weapon is so good for Lasswell because he's a mixed damage type dealer. He does slashing damage, and you can see this amplifies his slashing attack up by 20, and he's a piercing damage dealer. He does ice type damage, so the ice attack +30 on this sword is good for both of his damage types, and because he's an older unit, he does not have that mastery ability that our newer units have, where he gets that ice attack up for him and his group. The ice attack on the Purple Lightning will be a big help to both of his damage types and help cover that little bit of a gap that he's going to have, compared to some newer units. But just because he doesn't have that, like, don't sleep on this guy. He is one of the original 1v3 nightmares in Guild Wars and Arena. This guy back in the day was just doing things that other units couldn't do, but he's fallen behind, right? The curve has left him behind, but he's coming back, okay? And I think he's coming back in a big way. To talk about how he's coming back, let's start by looking at his stats. Now, this is something that we do in a lot of these videos. We look at 99, 115, and 120 stats. Those are the common stopping points. He gets major upgrades to his important stats at each step. You can see his HP goes up a lot each time, and it ends up at 3134 at level 120, which is a nice bruiser amount of HP. His attack ends up all the way at 510 at level 120. That's in line with modern attack damage dealers. Great. He even picks up 2 agility, which one of the ways you can build Lasswell is evasion, so picking up some more agility is a big deal for him, and 66 agility is fast, so this guy's going to be cruising around. His dexterity and luck also upgrade significantly along the way. That's really important. Dexterity is going to help him do more damage by critting a little bit more, and luck is going to help him dodge. And evasion is an important part of Lasswell's kit, especially when we go look at his Vision card as well. He's an ice unit, so you see that's those elemental minuses for fire and pluses to wind, and his resists are really nothing to write home about. He's kind of good against physical, he's pretty terrible against magic, etc. You can see it. So that's that. But what does that mean? Like, that doesn't necessarily tell all of Lasswell's story. And to tell that story, we're going to have to go look at his skills. And like usual, we're not going to spend a bunch of time on his older skills because he's been out for a long time. A lot of you already know all this stuff, but I will just highlight in his support skills right here. Here's how you can get him to be an evasion unit, right? He does have an evasion support ability, which is really nice, and it buffs his attack for the trade-off of -3 defense. Like, who cares about -3 defense? Then you're going to mix in probably this move right here for defense penetration, or some more raw attack if you just don't need the defense pin in like PvE or something like that. Okay, now, as we go down, let's look at his EX upgrades, because one thing about Lasswell is old Lasswell a lot of times had to rely on his Dragoon abilities to get around the enemy's defense. Piercing resistance is just not a big part of the game. Not a lot of people build that, but a lot of people build slash resist. So one area where Lasswell struggled was to do damage if he had to use his slashing moves. So he oftentimes relied on his Dragoon abilities to do damage, which meant you couldn't run Samurai reliably on him all the time for the evasion buff that you can get from Samurai, so he had to like find that from somebody else, and it was kind of awkward, but he did so much damage with Dragoon, a lot of people ran this just for the damage, the different damage type, and that will still be viable. However, I do think his slashing moves become more viable with the EX upgrade. So first, purple light flashes and wakes up. What a phenomenal translation job Google Translate did right there. I actually love that the troll translates. But anyway, that upgrades to Shiden Ipin Extreme Awakening. Phenomenal. Now, this is actually, I'm memeing about this, but it's a really good upgrade. One, the damage goes up from 165% to 210%. So a big upgrade in damage. It still decreases ice resist by 38%. The biggest deal, though, is that the attack type, or the attack range, goes from just this cross-based range to gaining some diagonals. This might not seem like a big deal, but it really is. It's very, very difficult for a lot of units with these kind of attack patterns to use that skill, because a lot of times you end up like just kind of off to the side a little bit, but you can't quite get all the way up next to them. So gaining diagonals is a really big deal from this upgrade. I really, really like that. Now, End of Snowflowers right here. This is upgraded from one of his support abilities, not his EX job, but Bunchin turns into Bunchin Kai. What is this? This is one of Lasswell's signature moves. So when you're talking about an evasion unit or a bruiser unit, which is like two of the things that Lasswell can kind of be, some oops button, some way of like, oh, I didn't evade, but I'm still okay, or I'm a bruiser because I have skills that help me take less damage, are super important. For Lasswell, this is it. This is his shield that for one time reduces damage by 100%. So he will completely negate an attack. Now, the upgrade here does not change it to like more than negating an attack, but it gives him another activation. So he can now activate this 3 times. That's pretty cool. There's times in like Guild Wars where he might use it twice in the first Guild War to like generate AP or something like that. Then you go into the second fight, you're wanting a dodge, he immediately doesn't dodge something and he's dead. Or you're playing against 100% hit units and they drop a sharpshoot on him, or they drop a holy on him, or Helena does her things and oh, blocked it because I have the shield up. It's a huge skill. Getting an extra use of it is nice, and the 40 TP cost means it will generate at base 20 AP. Really good. So I really like that upgrade. It's nice. Now, his job level 25 ability on the bottom here, Mirror Kasumi, 165% damage in an AoE. That's big. An AoE skill in his main job is big. So if we scroll up here, you'll notice there's no other AoE skills in his main job until this one. It also has a 25% chance to inflict blind, which is very nice for evasion builds. Helps get around some of the accuracy that's in the game. And, you know, hits in that AoE, 165% damage. It's just a basic attack, but the addition of AoE attack to his main job is important. Blind is really nice, so this is a good skill. Will the AI use it or not? That depends on if it does more damage than his other skills. We'll see, right? We'll experiment with it when we get into game and use him. The big thing here is I think it makes his main job more viable. So you don't have to go down to like Grand Shell Ice for an AoE slashing ability. You don't have to go to, you're not pigeonholed into going into Dragoon just to be able to do damage, because now his slashing moves from his main job I think are significantly better and should help him to do more damage. Although don't get me wrong, the Dragoon sub job is still a really good option for either Bruiser or Evasion Lasswell. Now, Lasswell's skill upgrades and his stat increases might almost bring him into like the modern state of the game. However, he's coming with a new vision card, and with the addition of that vision card, I really think he does achieve that like top tier damage dealer evasion status, and the vision card has a lot to do with unlocking that. So I am going to suggest, if you want to EX Lasswell and you want to get like really high level usage out of him, his vision card is really going to power him up, and it's going to be generically good for a lot of ice element units. So let's throw a graphic on the screen. Let's look at that vision card in a little bit of detail. Notice that the stat line on it is just generically good for any physical damage dealing unit. 313 HP, 152 attack, and 4 defense. Any attack type unit is going to like that. Now, it is an ice only vision card with the unit buff and the group buff, so you're going to want to limit this to, you know, Lasswell, Velric, Orin, Gilgamesh, somebody like that. The unit effect is attack up 30%. That's pretty dang good for a unit effect, and again, generically good for ice people. Now, the party effect, again, it's very generically good. Agility up by 15%, acquired AP up by 25%. Every ice element unit's going to like those stats. Every one of them is. Then the conditional party effect is Human Killer 25 with any physical attack. Like, it's so good. This vision card is so good because it's not only great for Lasswell, it's just good for Gilgamesh, Orin, like, I could keep saying it over and over again, but I think you understand the point that I'm making. Now, note that it also gets a global buff for Lasswell, defense, penetration, and luck up. That's key. That defense pin plus luck up really lends itself to Lasswell becoming a modern unit. You can see how our modern attackers have a lot of defense pin. Lasswell has some in his kit. This gives him even more. Really, really nice. And then the luck up is particularly good for evasion Lasswell. Okay, speaking of evasion Lasswell, if you want to run that, let's look real quick at the Shiva vision card, another sort of generic vision card that works in conjunction with evasion Lasswell in particular. I have a graphic for that, so let's look at it. And let's look at what it's bringing. So notice the stat line on the Shiva vision card. 330 HP, 18 attack, and 170 magic. This is not a card that an ice unit in particular has to wear. If you wanted to run like Lasswell with Velric and a support, you could absolutely give Lasswell his vision card. You could give that support unit or a mage or whoever a Shiva vision card. And just with those two things and the right Esper and gear choice on Lasswell, he's now this like evasion island. So you could go Valentine's Day Salir with Shiva, or Yuna with Shiva, Lasswell with his vision card, equip some evasion gear, and maybe like a good evasion Esper that we'll look at here in a second. Then your third unit can be anything you want. Lasswell is kind of like Tifa in that his vision card allows him to be two things at once. With his shield, with all of the stats from his VC, plus Shiva, plus again, the right, I'm going to say this again, plus the right gear and Esper. It seems obvious, but people call me out for not mentioning Espers all the time. He can be an evasion unit even with a true tank in his group or another ice bruiser in his group who's still getting all of the benefits from Velric's vision card. So Shiva is really important if you do want to run evasion Lasswell. There it is, and there's some just suggestions for who I think could carry it. Yes, I know Halloween freaking little Leela could also carry Shiva, but I'm not even going to talk about her because I don't like her very much. So actually, I think somebody else would be better with that, and then she'd want Typhoon anyway. It doesn't matter. Let's move on. I want to compare real quick here Lasswell EX to Velric, because Velric is our newest ice slashing like damage dealer, and let's look at their stats next to each other. You can see here that Lasswell does indeed compare statistically to Velric. Velric has a little bit more HP than Lasswell does, but Lasswell has more attack, more agility, more luck, more dex. Like, Lasswell's right there. I don't want to talk a ton about this because they are slightly different units, but they could be very, very good as a duo, like ice slashing killer units, right? They come out here and put a beat, they could put a beat down on some people, and it would be really fun. Again, I think you could switch out Velric for Orin or Gilgamesh as a potential candidate of somebody to work with Lasswell. Now, I want to talk about Espers real quick if you want to build Lasswell as a bruiser or an evasion unit. And it should really be no surprise that we're going to start with Odin. Odin is the ultimate I could be either build version for like most physical attackers, right? That 20 agility makes him really, really nice for evasion units, agility being such an important stat for evaders. And then Odin is just a badass Esper, right? Like, you go to the skill tree here and he's got slash attack up, he's got human killer, he's got more slash attack up, he has slash resist, accuracy, like he has so many of the things you would want on Lasswell. This could be like everyone's first max Esper, and you'd be set for either build. Now, if you're talking about bruiser builds in particular, literally any Esper that has either the attack resistance type that you want for your unit that like works with your gear or has defense or slash attack can work. There's so many there, I'm not going to go into specifics. You know what Espers you have, Fenrir for example, that could work really well with Lasswell. But for evasion in particular, I do want to shout out the Demon Chimera. Now, Demon Chimera is an MR Esper. That shows through in the stats, right? Only 13 agility, only 68 attack. Like, yeah, those aren't super good. But if you go to the skill tree for Demon Chimera, he has evasion in here, and a lot. 25 evasion is a big time buff. That's more than Shiva brings. Plus, there's slash attack in here, and then you have some accuracy you could sprinkle in, light resistance if you're fighting against like Eunice, or light killers if you're fighting against something like Warrior of Light. So Demon Chimera would probably be my preferred evasion Esper for Lasswell. I don't love Tetrasulfid on him a whole lot, but keep Demon Chimera in mind. Maybe another shout out I would give, if you're going to run Dragoon Bruiser Lasswell, something like Titan or Ifrit, something like that. Think about those, but Demon Chimera and Odin were the two Espers I wanted to shout out in particular. And I actually think that'll do it for my Lasswell EX preview video. I want to again highlight like a couple things. One, I think he's a very good evasion or high damage bruiser unit. He's going to be high damage as an evasion unit too, let's be real, but I think he can do either one really well. His sub jobs are interesting. You have Dragoon for another damage type, you have Samurai for another evasion buff. Really great. I think his EX upgrades are good, and he's somebody, if you're a big Lasswell fan, especially if you're already sitting on like 400 Mind Spheres of this guy, it seems like an easy upgrade for me. Now, if you don't have him yet, should you pull for him? I probably wouldn't. I would probably get back on the stay strong train. I'm going to start preaching hashtag stay strong again, because we have so many good things coming down the pipe. However, if you already have the guy, you've already worked on him, I think he'd be worth investing in, especially if you have those other ice element units that you could run with him. Gilgamesh, Velric in particular. Because if you have Velric and I don't, I'm real sad. I really want Velric, if you can't tell. I really want Velric. But, he'll come home. He'll come home someday. Maybe if I EX Lasswell, that will draw Velric to my account. You never know. Maybe that's how it'll work. Alright, that's the video, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please click that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you need some Visior to pull the Vision card or to work on pulling Lasswell, if you decide to go for it this week, please consider using my Amazon coin affiliate link. It really helps my channel out. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.